I have a friend who graduated from high school recently. She decided to become a welder, and instead of traditional college, she found a trade school that specializes in welding in Ohio. There's a shortage of workers in all kinds of trades, so the money's good there, and there's much less college debt. Why more high schoolers are choosing trade schools over four-year colleges. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Claxton Hepburn Medical Center, dedicated to providing patient care and regional services to the people of St. Lawrence County, claxtonhepburn.org, and CCOM Credit Union, serving the financial needs of people throughout northern New York and Vermont, in person, online at ccom.org, and on your smartphone.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, July 13th. First up, a mid-level appeals court is siding with Democrats in their attempts to overturn New York's congressional maps. Remember, New York's highest court ruled last year that Democrats' original maps had to be drawn, and that resulted in several Republican pickups in the 2022 midterms. WSKG's Von Golden has more on today's court decision and where things go from here.
The panel was split 3-2 in its ruling, which reverses a lower court's decision. Republicans immediately announced they would appeal the decision to the state's highest court. The current congressional districts were drawn by a court after Republicans successfully challenged the way the state legislature redrew them as unconstitutional. The Democrat-backed plaintiffs in the case argued the current lines were only supposed to be in place for the 2022 election cycle, and that the state's redistricting commission should get another shot at proposing them to the legislature ahead of 2024. The majority agreed and ordered the commission to start drawing new lines, but whether that actually happens will be up to the Court of Appeals, New York's highest court. In Ithaca, I'm Vaughn Golden for North Country Public Radio.
There are estimated to be hundreds of undocumented Latino workers working on North Country dairy farms. New York regulators have updated the process that shields those workers from retaliation and termination during labor disputes. WSHU's J.D. Allen explains that it's an expansion of federal protections put in place earlier this year.
The goal is to help guide undocumented workers to report employer misconduct if they're threatened with removal or other forms of retaliation. The State Department of Labor works with the Federal Department of Homeland Security to help these workers to gain temporary protection while their employers are under investigation. Undocumented workers involved in workplace labor issues may submit or have an advocate or attorney submit on their behalf a request to the state to investigate misconduct. Federal authorities could grant the worker at least a 2-year stay from removal. New York has initiated almost 36 investigations since the launch of this process this year, impacting more than 100 workers. For North Country Public Radio, I'm J.D. Allen.
Over the last few years, there's been a significant increase in the number of students enrolling in career and technical education classes. Those are 2-year BOCES programs that train high school juniors and seniors in a trade or profession, like automotive technology, culinary arts, and building trades. Educators say it's because students and their families are seeking alternatives to traditional 4-year colleges, and there's money to be made in the trades. Amy Feiereisel reports.
It's completion day at the Salmon River School District.
From Malone Central School District, with a 2-year completion certificate and a technical endorsement, Brandy Marlowe.
It's essentially graduation for the welding and HVAC programs here. About 30 students walk across the gymnasium, diplomas and cheering parents at hand. Afterwards, families stream towards one another. They hug and snap pictures. 18-year-old Mackenzie Dupra, a welding student, is beaming. She found out during the ceremony that she was the valedictorian in her class.
Surprising. I wasn't expecting it. It's pretty nice.
You had no idea?
I had no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Dupra says she's obsessed with welding.
When you're running a bead or you're doing anything welding, it just like your mind slows down and you're just totally focusing on the art of it.
Dupra was interested in science earlier in high school and thought that might be her path. Then she stumbled on welding through her father, Matt Dupra, who welds for fun.
She wanted to learn, and we just grabbed a bunch of pieces of metal, and I let her go at it, and
She did a phenomenal job. She now teaches me. So I have a teacher at home now.
Dupra will be attending Alfred State College for an associate's degree in welding technology. She says this is what she wants to do with her life. Her mother, April Dupra, says she couldn't be prouder, and she's so glad the BOCES programs exist.
The trades need to be inside the high schools, so that way they have a more variety of knowing that there's other options out there besides just sitting at a table or a desk. And this is something that's a hard skill, and it's hands-on, and as long as they have good teachers, they can go anywhere.
This is a sentiment that more and more families are sharing. Statewide, enrollment in BOCES career and technical programs has increased by about 10% over the last 5 years. It's been even more dramatic here in the North Country, with enrollment increasing by 20 to 25%. Stephen Todd is the district superintendent of the Jefferson Lewis BOCES. He says historically, they've had between 1,000 and 1,100 students in their CTE programs.
Last year, it went up to 1,150. This current year, 1,250. And we've got enrollments coming for next year, and it's more like 1,350.
They're expanding lots of programs, building new spaces. He says they've seen the most growth in the traditional trades.
Welding, carpentry, electrical wiring. These programs have experienced massive growth. We're in Watertown, we're doubling the size of our welding and electrical programs, adding a second section of each because of the extreme demand that we've seen.
That demand is coming straight from the workforce shortage, says Tawny French, the HVAC teacher at Salmon River. It was his students that got their diplomas earlier.
We're seeing a big change toward the trades.
We're in his classroom, a high-ceilinged shop.
They're so short-handed, and the pay is high enough now. We're having contractors come to us, and they're recruiting right out of the seats.
And they're offering good money. The Carpenters Union offers $20 an hour to start, health care, a pension. Entry-level welders can expect $25 an hour. That's exciting to lots of students, says Heather Gagne, the Franklin Essex Hamilton BOCES guidance counselor.
Students are able to find that they can work locally if they want to. They don't have to move away to be able to support themselves in a manner that they want and then be happy in a job.
She says a 4-year college degree is no longer seen as the only path towards success. And Gagne says she sees many students that struggle in traditional classes blossom when they get into a hands-on class. The rising cost of college and student debt also factors in.
And so students are starting to look at having $24,000, $25,000 a year, and that's for a state school. And if you really don't know what you want to go for, that's a lot of money to spend if you're unsure.
But it's not just career or college, says Gagne. Lots of students choose both, like 18-year-old Caleb Boykin from St. Regis Falls. He gives me a tour of the HVAC shop.
These are all boilers right here. This is wall hung. This is actually the one I worked on, and I did with a couple of friends of mine.
Boykin was actually recruited by a construction company in March. Through his senior spring, he worked 3 hours each day after school.
I work for a company called Adirondack Classic Designs out of Tupper Lake. I've wired an entire camp that's worth $1.2 million right now.
Boykin will be getting his associate's degree at SUNY Canton, and he plans to keep working while he studies. I ask if he'll miss high school.
Not really. I'm ready to work, get right into the work field.
Why are you ready to get into the work field?
It's just I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go get into the real world, experience it, and just have fun.
Boykin's passion is music to his teachers' ears. Excitement for the future, past high school, is exactly what they want for their students. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio at Salmon River Central School District.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. As I mentioned yesterday on the show, we have a new survey out about healthcare. Before we go and do a big series on healthcare issues in the North Country, which we're going to do later this fall, we want to know what's really happening. 54 people filled it out in the first 24 hours, and we'd love for you to join them. Go fill out our healthcare survey right now at ncpr.org. Big button right there on our homepage. It'll only take a few minutes. Thanks for helping us tell the right stories. Music today by Caitlin Scholl of Lake Placid and Caretaker of Canton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.